Hello, good evening. Welcome back to our channel where we'll talk about legal issues and explain what the law says about several things. Now, we're going to be talking about the Student Loan Act. Uh, it's properly read as the Student Loan Access to Higher Education Act. Now, it was interestingly signed into law by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and it's been raising lots of dust. People have been talking about it. People want to understand what it means. People want to even know whether it's a good development. But in this video, we're going to talk about the provisions in the law and also explain what those provisions mean. Basically, to give you an update on what you should expect going forward from the provisions of this law. Now, what exactly is the loan for? According to the loan is for students who need money to pay for their tuition fees in public higher institutions, right? So basically, it covers just public higher institutions of learning. Recently, the federal government came up to say they were going to add private institutions, private higher institutions of learning, private universities, private polytechnic, and the likes. But doing that, from the analysis of the law, is going to be a breach of the law, except the intention is for the government to amend the law, because currently the provisions of the act only covers students in public higher institutions, right? And in addition, all students seeking higher education in any public institution have an equal right to access the loan under the act without any discrimination, whether arising from tribe, disability, gender, religion, or even your class in the society. So it is available to all students seeking higher education in any public institution. I'm trying to emphasize the word public because there are people who also attend private higher institutions. Unfortunately, the law does not cover them. If the law is going to cover them, then there will have to be an amendment to the law. The law indicates applicants for the loan will prove that they are Nigerian citizens who are indigent. Indigent there means who are poor, which means under the law they will be coming from a family with less than 500,000 naira income per annum. People have in the news said it is at least 500,000 naira, but that is not the position of the law. So the law says the person applying or the person's family must have less than 500,000 naira per annum as their income. That means if you're a student listening and you intend to go for the loan and your parents collectively earn 600,000 naira annually, you can't apply for the loan. They have to earn less than 500,000 naira annually. The law also establishes the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, right? Now, that fund has various functions which have been set out under the law. Some of the functions include implementing the provisions of the Act, supervising and coordinating the management of student loans in Nigeria, and receiving and screening loan applications from higher institutions to ensure compliance with the provisions and the requirements of the Act. The fund also approves and disburses loans to eligible applicants, monitors the academic record of loan recipients, and ensures timely loan repayments. It's important to quickly mention that under the Act, the loan is an interest-free loan. So if you're giving 2 million naira, you'll be expected to pay 2 million naira. So there's no interest on the loan. Additionally, the fund provides financial advice on educational matters, ensures adequate loan security, engages in other banking activities, and takes legal action to recover loans and enforce the provisions of the Act, amongst others. The fund also sets up a committee Now, the committee is to ensure the efficient disbursement of loans, and the committee is to comprise of several people, several stakeholders. Of course, under the Act, the head of the committee is the governor of the central bank, the office of the governor of the central bank. So at every point in time where you have a central bank governor, automatically that person becomes the head of the committee, which oversees the fund. Right now, the committee's head, which is the central bank governor, has the right or the powers to appoint a secretary for the committee. Other members of the committee include the minister responsible for education, that is the Minister of Education, the chairman of the National Universities Commission, a representative from the Vice Chancellor's Forum of Nigeria, a representative from the Rectors Forum of all Nigerian Polytechnics, and the provost of the Forum of all Colleges of Education. Other members include the Minister for Finance, or his or her representative, the Auditor General for the Federation, the representative from the Nigerian Labour Congress, the NLC, a representative of the Nigerian Bar Association, and a representative from the Academic Staff Union of Universities, that is ASU. The committee basically will play a pivotal role in overseeing the process and ensuring that the loans reach deserving students. Funding for this initiative will be sourced from a percentage of the revenue of the Federation. Now, Section 13 of the law outlines the aim and the objectives of the Nigerian Education Fund. The first and foremost, the fund seeks to facilitate the mobilization of funds to provide, like I said earlier, interest-free loans to students studying at public institutions of higher learning in Nigeria. The loans will be allocated for the payment of tuition fees alone. So they're not going to give you a loan to buy textbooks. It is going to be for the payment of tuition fees alone. Also, a key objective of the fund is to ensure a constant supply of loans for qualified students. Right now, when you apply and you get this loan, in fact, before you get the loan, you must provide a guarantor who can, two guarantors basically. So it can be it can be someone who is a civil servant, someone who is a lawyer of 10 years post-qualification, or someone who is a judicial officer or a justice of the peace. So these persons, two of them, either two of them of the list I just mentioned, two out of them, if you can find them, we have to provide a guarantee. And what that means is that if you're unable to pay, the government can go after them to recover the loan. And repayment is 2 years post NYSC. Now the question that comes from that is what happens where someone graduates from the university and deliberately refuses to get posted for NYSC, to get mobilized for NYSC. Someone refuses to apply. So does that mean the person will not be liable to pay just yet? So if one graduates, let's say in the year 2024, the expectation is that by 2026 or 2027, the person will start repaying the loan. But if the person says, you know what, I'm not applying for the NYSC, I'm not applying at all, does that mean the person will not be eligible to pay? So these are questions that the government will need to answer, and perhaps that will need to lead to a review on amendment of the law. Because currently what it seems to mean is that until you finish your NYSC, you're not supposed to start paying. But there are people who go to university and they don't attend the NYSC, right? And after all, it is not a crime to not attend the NYSC, right? So you can as well decide not to attend the NYSC just to avoid paying your loan. People may perhaps look at that to circumvent the provisions of the Act with respect to the obligations to repay. So the government will have to look at that and possibly make an amendment. If you fail to pay as stipulated under the Act, according to the provisions of the Act, upon conviction, the defaulter or an individual aiding the defaulter to default may face a fine of 500,000 naira or an imprisonment for 2 years. Ordinarily, we know that issues relating to borrowing money, loans, debt, indebtedness, and all of that fall within a civil jurisdiction. They're civil in nature, but this act seems to have criminalized indebtedness. So when you owe the federal government under the provisions of this act, they can take you to court, right? And it's not going to be a civil court; it's going to be a criminal court, because there's a penalty here. There's a penalty of imprisonment for up to 2 years, or a fine of 500,000 naira. The penalties basically underscore the seriousness of loan repayment obligations, and it's aimed at ensuring and encouraging borrowers to fulfill their responsibilities promptly. People would have asked, where is the money going to come from? So when you're giving out loans to people, there has to be money reserved somewhere to fund the loan. One significant source of the fund is the education bonds, which will be issued to generate funds specifically for educational purposes. We may have to discuss issues of bonds and education bonds in subsequent video. Additionally, the fund will benefit from education endowment fund schemes, where contributions and investments will be made to support educational initiatives. To further booster the fund, a percentage of taxes, levies, and duties collected by the government of the Federation from entities such as the Federal Inland Revenue Service, the Nigeria Immigration Service, and the Nigeria Customs will be allocated to the fund. This allocation is set at 1% of the total revenue from these sources. So, for example, if the FRS total revenue for 2024 is 5 trillion, 1% of 5 trillion will be sent to the fund. So from there, loans will be disbursed. Okay, so because it is interest free, that means it is not profit motivated. It is just a social welfare scheme to help indigent Nigerian students, right? So now, the Nigerian Education Loan Fund will also receive 1% of the profits generated by the government of the Federation from the exploration and exploitation of oil and other mineral resources. This revenue stream taps into the natural resources sector to contribute to the financing of student loans and educational initiatives. They can also get funds from gifts, endowments, contributions, donations, and all of that. So funds can be generated from different sources. It's just to ensure that there's a constant flow of funds available that will make funds available for disbursement to eligible students. This is a brief overview of the provisions of the ad. Interesting, it's a very short ad. You can have access